Good morning. Taking the opportunity to come and chat with you. It's a lovely Saturday morning here in Sydney, Australia. After we experienced a couple of days ago what was supposed to have been the coldest day in, I've been told, centuries. I don't know if it was true. It is pretty cold, but it's looking pretty sunny today. I'm just waiting for my ride to come and pick me up. We're going to go and enjoy some sunshine. A couple of things that I wanted to just chat about while I was waiting. There's a bunch of C's in this title. I could actually probably add quite a few more words to start with the letter C. And coming because in this period where I have been watching over my own business of, I just always say a team of 12. It feels like it's 12. It's about 12 people watching over how they're going through what is still a pandemic for those of us in healthcare, watching over my family as well, and watching over my community, and having been approached by a few people who are really struggling. And these are people whom I would have assessed and still do as being fairly tough-minded, fairly, I don't want to throw the word resilient around because it's a bit used, but yeah, just individuals who are really struggling with the weight that has been upon them. And I was thinking a lot about how in my own world there are collision courses happening in a lot of spaces for me as well. And what am I actually really going to? So I just wanted to come and share with you, I guess, what I've been experiencing, well, what I myself am falling onto in terms of a mindset and a practice. So I call this, courage, conviction, capacity. There's a bunch of other things, like I would put compassion, context, community in there as well. And here's one thing that I want to say. If you have the courage and the conviction to say the things that you need to say because you have a voice, so whether you are a friend trying to stand up for another friend, or whether you are an advocate for a particular cause, or perhaps you're a student in a particular discipline because you care, that voice will come with some amount of testing. And we can feel quite anxious, and we can feel quite worried that what we're saying is going to be tested or going to be contested. One of the things that I've been learning about in my studies, I'm doing a master's in leadership, and it really struck me the difference between critical thinking and just being critical. Critical thinking is actually an open-minded, curious, compassionate, stable, mature, sophisticated space to be in, whereas being critical is about being personal and taking things out of context and basically, just having a bit of a case and making a bit of a point of it. And I know that for myself, I've been really challenged to think about this. What is critical thinking? All the more in our healthcare practice, for those of us who are healthcare providers, it can be really distressing for us to be turning. It's very difficult to offer appointments right now, and it's quite hard for us to actually sustain criticism of the mental health space as well, in terms of, and we wear it in terms of, why aren't we able to absorb more clients? And if you're anything like our practice, we are getting very, very desperate calls from referrers in our community. And it requires us to have some creativity and some conviction and some capacity to weather the storm. So if you're listening in on this and you're wondering why, it's so hard to get an appointment at the moment, even with our doctor, we tried to get an appointment with our doctor, and it was the message said unprecedented levels of busyness. And that is because we're heading into winter. The brunt of what we've experienced during COVID is, still upon us. As you can see, in Australia, the state of Victoria went into lockdown. And so, unlike other crisis situations where our resilience can take a bit of a dip and then come back up because we're rebuilding, during this period, we're going crisis, to crisis to crisis to crisis, and it can feel really frustrating when that momentum to rebuild, which very often comes from a crisis, doesn't happen. And so we can actually get quite discouraged. But here's the thing: we will need to build capacity for ourselves. We just need to pull back, keep things real simple, keep things real streamlined, keep our community around us, watch over the amount of mindset, I guess, parachutes that we've attaching to ourselves. You know, what sort of messages are we taking on? Are we condemning ourselves? Are we being really hard on ourselves? You know, these are the things that we really need to protect to build capacity. You know, how are we actually making sure that we ourselves and our minds and our body and our mental health and our spirituality is really digging deep into reservoirs of joy and peace? And it might sound like a really silly thing to say. How can you have joy and peace among such calamity? Well, I was very privileged to have caught a video that someone shared. Nikki, if you ever watch this, thank you for sharing the video of a young woman who was auditioning, I think for America's Got Talent, who has a cancer story and who basically shared her song. And she said that just because life is hard doesn't mean that you can't be happy. Now, I prefer to say just because life is hard, it doesn't mean that you can't pursue joy, because happiness, you know, is transient. But moments of joy, can I show you this? Look, I'm not really much of a flowers person, really, but over the last 4 weeks, I have been replenishing this vase. This is a beautiful vase. If you watch it and you know who gave this to me, I love it. Replenishing the flowers as it sits on my study, because it brings me such joy to be able to just look at the vibrant colors and to smell in its fragrance. And even just looking out of my window, you will see these beautiful flowers. I don't really know what they are. Oops, let me see if we can get that one. Let me see. Can you? I'm such a poor. Oh, there you can just catch it there. I don't know what those are. It's just a reminder that such beauty still exists, that, you know, seasons come and seasons go. So how can we build capacity, therefore, to hang on to the courage to still have the convictions that we have? As mental health practitioners, we're not going to let go of our convictions for accessible mental health care. We're not going to let go of our convictions that we want to be available during what's coming at us. What it's going to mean is that we're going to have the courage and the conviction to make space so that we can be creative about the things that we're going to be able to offer. So how are you watching over your capacity and expanding that capacity by allowing yourself to have moments of rest for pursuing joy? I wanted to add community and compassion, being able to have compassion for yourself and giving other people compassion. At the end of the day, we're human beings, are we not? We're finite. We have limited capacities. And how can we have compassion with one another to actually be inquiring, to be curious as to what might be going on in someone's world or in someone's life, or what might be the history or the context that they come from for the reasons for why they do the things that they do. I think very often in our social media landscape, we have such a checkbox approach to, accepting or rejecting people. And that's quite a sparse, one-dimensional way to view the world, I suppose. And how are you having compassion for yourself to accept that we all make mistakes, and that, you know, when we get the opportunity to reflect and repair and think about how we could do things differently, then we grow. That is the resilient mindset in the midst of adversity, to be able to pick yourself up and grow. So those are my thoughts for a beautiful Saturday morning, to say that watch your capacity. Don't expect it to be what it was 3 years ago. Be realistic about it. Pursue joy, pursue rest, pursue play. Meet up with the people who know you, who love you, who can provide you with perspective, who can give you a big cuddle if that's allowed during COVID, if they're in your COVID bubble, to provide that for you. And I ran out of words. It's unusual, but I have run out of words, and that's probably as much as needs to be said today. Take care.